Good morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids, and welcome to season 4 and episode number 549 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show here on the Cryo Media Network. Yeah, today, recording day. It's Friday, the first Friday of 2025, so a particularly fly day. I believe it is January 3rd, 2025, and I think it is going to be a pretty decent day here at the Beaver Lodge. We got very lucky yesterday. We did not get the big dump that had been forecast. I don't know how everybody else fared, but over here we got fairly fortunate. I am your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver, eh? And with me today is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. Yay! A big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Peppermaster, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and CanadianTarot.com. Mr. Grizzly, how's your mental health today, sir?
Yeah, it's better than it was yesterday, but it's not great. I'm just coping with some stuff. I was up very late on Wednesday evening, go figure, and was in no shape to, well, I slept until 9:30, so I was in no shape to do any sort of show yesterday, and emotionally I was just not in a good spot. And I'm a little better today, and I assume by the end of today I'll probably be much better, but yeah, just going through some stuff, coping, It's what happens.
Okay.
It's what happens, so, I'll survive. I always do.
Well, I am happy that you are with us today.
Thanks. It's good to be here.
Because your company is always better than without.
Well, thank you. But it somewhat therapeutic for me too, right? So having some social FaceTime like this, along with getting a chance to talk about some of the things I'm going through and feeling, it always helps. It's therapeutic. So, I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for you. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, I'm definitely grateful for you, and same thing. This morning rendezvous with the best damn fam in all podcasting is always good for my soul as well. So I can understand that. And thank you, Kit Cassie, already with super chat contribution this morning. Thank you. Much appreciated. Good morning to the Kits and Cubs who are here this morning. I see Kit Elaine and Kit Janet and Kit Mr. Jim looking through the magic mirror. Kit Uncovered, Kit Cassie, Kit Linda M. Well, good morning all. And Kit Linda M coming in here with a big hug. And we have Bear again. Yay! Saying that. So everybody's happy to see you, which is quite nice. All right, Kits and Cubs. I wanted to, there's a little bit to get through on the year-end review, some last little loose ends to tie up, and there was something interesting. There was an interesting issue yesterday. I don't know if you saw it, but the Canadians asked questions and the panelists answered them, and there were a couple of answers that I thought really, really interesting because, well, number one, it's, wait a minute, we've been saying that. So it's kind of because we're not journalists and
Right.
we're not esteemed like Chantal Lebert and Andrew Coyne and Althea Raj are. So whenever we're saying we've been saying something for a few months and there's an episode like this and we hear what's been coming out of our mouths coming out of their mouths, well then suddenly we kind of feel a little smarter. So a couple of things that I wanted to bring to you, but I know you had a little something in the description, Mr. Grizzly, if you wanted to touch on that briefly, but
Sure.
if not, I'm happy to pass on right over it as well,
Well,
because the less that we discuss about these people, in my estimation, the better.
Agreed, but it's something that I think needs to be addressed and discussed. And I mean, we can't ignore the fact that, the two most horrible people in the country get together for a podcast. Although, is Jordan Peterson still in country? He said he was leaving Canada.
If I was Trudeau, I would run on that. There's another guy, Gar or Sar or something. I had never heard of him but apparently he's Gad Sar or something. Really known.
Yeah.
He said he was going too. Then Kevin O'Leary is, again, nobody with a legal background has yet got back to us on whether or not openly seeking the attention of the leader of another nation in order to discuss with them without any authorization the economic union of two nations is either sedition or treason. We're still, we would like, it's because we like to be precise on facts. We would like to know which one it is. So if anybody with a legal background, or even if it is one of the two, but we highly suspect that it may be one of the two, or at least circumstantial evidence leading to evidence of one of the two. So if anybody would like to contribute with that, but I mean, those are three pretty good. I mean, if they throw in Puerto Rico and Hawaii, pretty.
Yeah.
I think that's a good trade. I don't know. I mean, it would be the biggest trade since Gretzky.
Well, so let's look at this. So Jordan B. Peterson podcast is Canada's next Prime Minister, Pierre Poilievre. Today's sponsor, Balance of Nature. Get 35% off your order of fruits and veggies, plus free fiber and spice supplements. Use promo code Jordan at checkout, balanceofnature.com. Okay. All right. Probably some sort of thing that's going to make you poop a lot. But
is
this other one.
Sorry about the volume. You caught me off guard. Is that the show or the supplements?
Well, I would assume both.
Oh God, poop jokes in the morning. Let's see, it's like 7:11. I think that's the earliest in the morning we've done a poop joke on the show.
The second sponsor, the media partner, Preborn, help save 11,000 babies from abortion. Look, I'm not telling anybody what their thoughts should be or are when it comes to a woman's right to make that choice. In Canada, there are no laws around it because it is a medical procedure. It needs to stay that way. Because the minute you put laws around it, unless it is enshrined as a charter right, the minute you put laws around it, you can restrict those laws.
Right. That's why you never want to open that door.
Yeah, that's why. It's a medical procedure, period. You have people within that party who have sworn up and down that they will put an end to this. Now, you can be pro-choice and anti-abortion. And
Right.
People look at me funny when I say that, but I'm like, no, you can be. I know many women who are. They would never make the choice for somebody else, but for themselves, they have chosen to not have an abortion.
Right.
That's their choice. They have the right to make that choice, and they want to protect that right and make sure that that right stays. It's a medical procedure. If you want to make the choice, you can. Don't take it away from somebody else. Don't control women's bodies. And yet the Conservative Party of Canada very much wants to do that. Even though Pierre Poilievre says he won't do anything about it, we all know his backbenchers will, because they've been trying for years.
Absolutely. That's why I keep on saying, even if Pierre Poilievre was pro-choice, he can say that until he is conservative blue in the face. His party is not.
His party is not.
And his is only one vote.
Yep.
And if he wants to keep his job at leader, if he knows that his party is not, even though he is not going to try to force the issue.
Exactly.
Because he likes his paycheck. Clearly, he's been there for 20 years, collecting it. Hasn't even tried to do anything else with his life. Come on.
It's simple as that, right?
So he isn't doing anything that's putting that seat, that very, very cushy seat, in jeopardy.
Of course not. Of course not.
He is definitely a leader that is going to be led by the nose by his base.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that.
No.
He likes the trappings and the comforts way too much. Look how much he's spending now that he's become leader.
Yeah.
This is the type of guy that would build golden toilets if he could.
I wonder if one's been placed at Stornoway. Maybe that would explain the $11,000 a month water bill.
Yeah, no. Gee, what's he bathing in? Vichy? Jeez, man.
Only
all
Evian,
right.
And only
yeah,
Evian.
right. Oh yes, Evian. This because the bubbles feel tingly against his nice bottom. Sorry for the visual. All right.
I didn't need that in my head.
I'm just
floating
saying,
around
man.
up here. I don't need that.
There seems to be a thing, man. We have Queen Dani taking the 6-day trip to the United States, and people wondering how much it's going to cost. It's like, no cost is too great for Queen Dani's very tender alabaster tushy to be nothing but comfortable. Only the softest and plushest seating will do. I mean, why even ask the question?
Mm-hmm.
Come on, you see what they're doing. You see what they are living like. They are flossing and balling on your dollar.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Here's
While pointing to the other guy.
Here's a quote I want to read you from Carol McNeil. Carol, C-A-R-O-L-E, McNeil, M-A-C-N-E-I-L. It's on the Twitter. And this is interesting what she has to say. I don't know if she says opinions are my own and that she has a Globe and Mail article, but she says here, the question is, can the opposition leader empathize with love with, let's start that over. The question is, can the opposition leader empathize with or love anything as much as he hates the Prime Minister of Canada? His name-calling and apparent willingness to side with the U.S. against Canadian interests makes some people wonder about that. Makes me wonder.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, here's the thing about him, too. And by the way, thank you, Kit Cassie. The name I was looking for was Gadsad.
Mm-hmm.
Earlier, put it in the chat. The PP we see as well when he's doing these videos where he's always like pointing his finger at you somehow, or putting his hand in your face somehow. Listen, when he's being antagonistic with journalists and all that, it's not the PP you see at his rallies.
Oh, goodness, no.
Right? At his rallies, when he's like sitting there and he's like, it's like, your home, my home, bring it home. Like this. I mean, we're looking at it from the outside and go, oh my God. And it's like you try not to pull a muscle from the eye strain. Like that. But those who are into that message, it is delivered in a rallying. Your home, our home, my home, bring it home. Everybody, let's work together to make Canada this wonderful place that's only just for us. But let's all work together because we need to. He's got that.
Mm-hmm.
He's selling that shit hard on the other side. I mean, we're not going to, but if you're going there, if you're predisposed to buying that message, right? It's the same rhetorical techniques and all that stuff as Trump is using, but it isn't as harsh as it is. We find it's nothing like what's going on down there. Yes, and there's a whole lot less of the. He's better at faking the sincerity. Let's put it this way: I don't think, if you asked me honestly, Pierre Poilievre is no more loyal to the people who vote for him than Donald Trump is to the people who vote for him. He would cut a bitch in 2 seconds flat.
Yeah.
Wouldn't blink, wouldn't bat an eye. But he's better. He's way, way, way better.
Well, he's been doing it longer. Remember, he's been in politics for 20 years. But this article from that Ms. McNeil, or Mrs. I don't know, Carol McNeil, quotes. I have the article. I put it in the chat because it seems to be non-paywalled. Let me read some of it to you. Last Friday's dinner meeting, this was written in early December, by the way. Last Friday's dinner meeting between Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Donald Trump seemed to spook Mr. Poilievre. At least he reacted with vitriol in a Sunday press conference where he came out guns ablazing, standing behind a sign that said, "Fix the broken border." There's nothing unusual about an opposition leader attacking the Prime Minister, but in this case, Mr. Poilievre's amplification of Mr. Trump's criticisms left the impression he's willing to side with Mr. Trump against Canadian interests as long as it helps to attack Mr. Trudeau. It played particularly badly in Quebec among pundits who typically disdain Mr. Trudeau. That isn't likely to radically alter the political landscape. Mr. Poilievre is way ahead in opinion polls, and Mr. Trudeau doesn't seem to be able to do anything to change that. But it's remarkable that a politician who seems so comfortably on track to become the next Prime Minister just couldn't find another club in his bag other than the one he uses to hit Mr. Trudeau over the head. Mr. Poilievre knocked himself off message because he responds to every issue by rhetorically firebombing his opponent. The Conservative leader has spent many months relentlessly pounding away at the same points with eye-glazing repetition of a four-phrase slogan. Axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, stop the crime. Mr. Poilievre's staff acted on a disciplinary principle that almost any day spent on anything else was a deviation from a winning strategy. But on Sunday, Mr. Poilievre found himself complaining that asylum seekers are taking Canadian jobs and sparking discussion about whether the lack of a Team Canada approach to Mr. Trump might harm Canada's interests. Mr. Poilievre obviously eventually recognized it as a mistake. On Tuesday afternoon, after Mr. Trudeau briefed opposition leaders on his Mar-a-Lago dinner with Mr. Trump, the Conservative leader emerged to emphasize to reporters that the tariffs Mr. Trump is threatening to impose on Canada would be unfair and unjustified, and that he had told the Prime Minister he would make those arguments to put Canada first, which is what we all need to do. Then Mr. Poilievre pivoted to talking about carbon taxes, back to axe the tax. It's just a never-ending broken record with this guy. It never stops.
So we weren't the only one that noticed the sudden change of tone that lasted only a couple of minutes.
Yeah, no, we all noticed it. I think a lot of people noticed it. And I think it's reflected, like you said, in the province of Quebec, where they're not a big fan of Mr. Trudeau, but they really don't like him.
They don't like Trump at all. So
no.
He's not getting the axe the tax election, and as hard as Gretchen is going to try to make fetch happen here.
Mm-hmm.
It's Friday, the 6th. The 119th Congress is coming back up to sit. And assuming that it doesn't take them 15 or more rounds to find a leader this time around. Girl, that country's a mess. But assuming, because, I think he can only lose. I think there's one person that's already said that they're not voting for him and he can only afford to lose one more vote.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, so he's got to please everyone. So, and I assume that there's going to be at least one other person, a Republican, that's going to want to make a name for themselves. Get some airtime. Little celebrity. Again, if it's anything like we saw the last time, by the time he actually gets the speakership, he's going to have contorted himself in such a pretzel that when it comes time to do that next reconciliation or debt ceiling or pushing the thing down, because it seems that Republicans have just given up on passing a budget, period. Those 7 or 8 or 13 people that are like the Freedom Caucus are going to get mad that they made any deal or any concession whatsoever. You've failed the purity test and you've got to go. And down the list we go to find the next person who's willing to take the job, who now has seen 2 people get shivved for just trying to keep the government functioning. When you got a group of 7 to 13 that are determined to shut it down at all costs and just move into the next one. And the next one. And each person that's going to want it going down the list is going to be a person that's even more thirsty for fame and attention and willing to endure whatever hell they're going to have for 6 months to a year until them too get shivved in the back, because that budget thing comes back every year. And since you're not passing a budget, you're just passing continuing resolutions every 3 or 6 months. That comes up more often a year, more opportunities to get shivved.
Yeah.
So, guy south of us said, I support Mike Johnson, which, he usually comes in at the last minute and says he supports when he's pretty sure that they're going to win. So I'm guessing he's pretty sure that nobody else actually wants to run for the job at the moment. So there's no choice. You got to find a way to. So how many rounds is it going to take? Because if Mike Johnson doesn't get it, and this time he actually did come out and support him, this would be like the 7th, 8th, or 9th time he's come out in favor of something, and he's been told no by his party. It's going to start looking bad.
Oh, yes.
For the normal person, 1 or 2 times to the party saying no starts to look bad. At least in Canada, somebody says no to him 1 time. Justin Trudeau, that's ink for the next 7 days. He's had 7 or 9 already. He's not president yet. When is somebody going to start saying that what's going on down there, he doesn't have a grip and it's actually rather shambolic?
I don't know, honestly. I don't know if it's
because under any other person, having this much stuff being denied this many times before would kind of send the message that the president is a little impotent, at least within his own party. He still has the power of the executive pen, so he's not completely impotent, but we're just convincing his party to do the things that he wants. He's getting the computer says no button a lot. At some point, that's going to make him angry. He's going to get very, very angry. So angry. Like Marvin.
Where is the kaboom? There's supposed to be an earth shattering kaboom.
Mm-hmm. And when Marvin stomps his little foot, bad things happen for everybody else. Jeez. So, stay tuned. It's going to be a... God, why do we have to live upstairs from the meth lab? Why? Why?
If you sleep next to an elephant and the elephant rolls over, you're going to feel it.
God. All right. So, do we have anything more to say about this thing?
No, I'm still astonished at
I know,
the whole ridiculousness of it all. How, Pierre Poilievre is just the biggest hypocrite in this country. He will speak out of both sides of his mouth at one given time. He'll tell you that, no, we'll protect a woman's right to choose. Well, meanwhile, he gets sponsored by, appears on Jordan Peterson's show and gets sponsored by an organization that wants to take away a woman's right to make that choice.
I know. Oh, man.
We all know about Arnold Viersen and how many times he's tried to bring in stuff from the backbench. All he needs is, 43 signatures or 47 signatures so he can table that motion in the House. And he's done it a multitude of times.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Thank you to Kit Cowboy. Thank you so much. And Kit Nona Carol. Thank you so much. And from... Kits Mateo, Jazzy, and Rain, who say that they want a dance party.
Well, I started a fan funding thing today. I'm trying something new that's part of the suite of software we have in YouTube, and it's if we get 10 membership drives, I guess is how it works, it generates revenue for us, obviously, but we'll have to have a dance party, a live dance party, if we get enough people to contribute today. So,
Well, I'm down with that.
no, I knew you would be. So,
I'm down for getting down.
yeah.
Woo! Okay, are we allowed to? Is there a way to do a dance party without being dinged?
Have to figure that one out. I can certainly do a live event, but I don't know if we'd be able to replay it.
Yeah, you probably would not be able to replay it.
Yeah, I could do the live event, and then I'd probably have to take it down. So we could do it once and then put it into private mode so it couldn't be seen by anybody, so that we don't get tagged with copyright information. Copyright violation or whatever the case may be.
Beaver likes to get down. Beaver likes to get down. Shake that booty, hit the ground. Yeah, get down. Oh, yeah. Dance part. Okay, yes, please. Please, Kits and Cubs, make it happen. I'm. Listen, I'm already shaking it for tips. I'm willing to shake it harder.
Yeah.
All right, let's get it.
The thing we have here. It's
cool. What a good idea.
Little super chats, and we get a live dance party.
Okay. Well, we're at 4 out of 10. So let's see. Let's see if we get out of 10 out of 10. And then Miss Shadika again saying that I look like a cute gnome today because we got my little hat on. Thank you so much. Yes. And Kit Tavi G as well. Thank you for contributing to making the dance party happen. Okay, Kits and Cubs, let's keep on going with our year-end review. We talked about international and national. We talked about provincial and municipal yesterday. There was one little bit on the municipal that I forgot, but since I have you, Mr. Grizzly, and we didn't get your opinion yesterday, provincially this year, your sort of winners, losers, most underrated, just sort of general thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Municipally?
Provincially and municipally.
Provincially. Highly rated Wob Canoe. Highly underrated, or highly overrated, I guess, would be Doug Ford, Daniel Smith, Scott Moe, Higgs, but he's gone now, and they have a sane member of humanity who's going to run the province for the better. Our friend Susan Holt, Premier Susan Holt. I think she's doing a great job thus far, and a difficult job because she's got a big problem to tackle, but she's doing it bit by bit as promised. Wob Canoe has already got the highest rating in the country for any premier, and justifiably so, because he's fulfilling the promises that he ran on. And Manitobans are going like, hey, this is what we need. We need more of this, please. And something tells me he'll win a second mandate because he's just getting everything done that he promised, and reward that with another government, unless of course he decides to run federally, in which case, wouldn't it be interesting if Canada's next prime minister was an Indigenous man?
Ooh, yes. I would have no problem with that whatsoever. Oh, no.
What?
You know my musical mind.
Mm-hmm.
You know Billy Joel's An Innocent Man.
Okay, all right. All right. Enough of that.
I'm sorry. It's just the syllables work.
Yeah.
It just literally like a chiron. It like just zipped through my head like from one ear to the other, and it's like, do I sing this or do I opted not to. And not only because I'm not sure I can hit that note. Oh man. But yeah, just I have a really weird mind. Yes, I think that's pretty much very similar to what I said on the show yesterday, actually, as well. Municipally, Kits and Cubs, I did not. We talked about the politicians, but I did not talk about the stories that had caught my eye. And I see that Kit's Linda M and Kit's Jason have said that they've supported the super chat because, well, both of them want to see Grizzly dance, among other reasons. There's also because we're the best podcast out there, but mostly they want to see you dance. Thank you, Kit Jason, and thank you, Kit Linda M. All right, municipally, some of the stories that caught our eye this year, and please in the chat if you have any, because we can't be everywhere. Oh, Jay Crick as well. We're at 7. Calgary was really in the news municipally this year. Number one, there was the big water main break
Right.
before Stampede. It's like, so that was kind of a big issue. And then there's everything going on, the seeming campaign to force the mayor to quit, either by smearing her name or harassing her or whatever. But I mean, just it's relentless.
Oh yeah, it's bad.
And then everything having to do with the Green Line as well. So Calgary municipally was really in the news. So I know that there are things that have happened in other places, but for some reason, it just seemed to me that that was the place where more was coming up. I don't know if you had anything on that, Mr. Grizzly.
No, not really. Not at this time. I haven't had a chance to really review it, to be honest with you, to form a coherent thought.
That's all right. Some of the other stories municipally that played this year was the lack of warming centers last winter, particularly in Ontario. I don't know if that was the same in other provinces, but just people, for some reason, not feeling any sense of urgency to open them up in any way whatsoever.
Yeah, they just want people to suffer, I think. I don't know.
Yeah. And anything having to do with the O train in Ottawa. Jeez. And the other one, unfortunately, we have to talk about this, but over the holidays, for the third time, it seems, there were shots fired at a Jewish school.
Oh.
Now, this time it was in the evening and no one was hurt or in the middle of the night or something. But it's the third time. And if I'm not mistaken, it's the same school.
Oh, really?
The third time. What do you say? It's like, we live in a pluralistic society. There are going to be people in the society that have beliefs that you don't share.
Yeah. Simple as that.
They're going to be that. We allow ourselves to hold our beliefs, to advocate, to fight for them, to protest for them, even if it's going to make another group unhappy. But the condition for that to be able to happen is that we don't shoot at schools. We don't firebomb mosques and synagogues. We don't hit people with things that we have in our hands while we are protesting. We don't invade other people's events. We hold our own. We voice our opinion. We don't try to impose it on top of everybody else's. We leave room for all the voices, even the voices that disagree with us, because one day we are going to be the voice that's going to disagree with somebody else. That's the unwritten contract. You can have concern for what's going on in other lands, particularly if you have an attachment to that land, by protesting here. For Canada to somehow use its power in some way to try to make changes better, to make things better other places in the world. You are allowed to do that. But if somebody has the opposing view, you are not allowed to hit them.
Not without consequences.
You are not allowed to take it upon yourself to engage in activities that will create a climate that make those people feel unsafe here.
Mm-hmm.
And that applies to everybody. No exceptions. You can't take it that far. There is a sandbox. We play within the limits of the sandbox. Within the sandbox, you can do what you like. And the reason we have a sandbox is because we have a pluralistic society and we want everyone to have a voice and to be able to express it, even if they know it's going to displease other people who are also in the sandbox. Because everybody gets a turn to speak about what matters to them. And we hold space for everybody to do that. The people that protest every year at the gay pride marches with the signs, who show up and protest legally and within the bounds of the law, but right next to us,
Mm-hmm.
I have no problem with them. I mean, would I wish they would just put down the placard and participate in our day, come into our house for a day, see how we love, see how we welcome, whatnot, and then go out and see if their message changes. Okay, you know what? I still don't agree with the lifestyle, and I still think that my higher power thinks that you're doing something wrong like this. But clearly, I've been in your space and I felt welcome and I felt loved and I felt so you can't be all that bad.
Indeed.
Maybe I should just advocate for live and let live and just, roll my eyes and go, I don't understand it. But at least they're nice people.
Well, and that's the thing. You don't have to understand it. Just be kind, right?
Mm-hmm. But if you're just standing there with your placard saying what you believe, and you're not actually impeding our parade, stopping the day, trying to prevent us, trying to, take our day away by making it more about you than us, and more power to you. Protest away. Exercise your freedom of speech. Be there. Be present. Be visible. Do your thing. As I pass by, I'll say hello and I'll give you a smile. Because I know that the very next day, I can go in front of your church and I can do the same thing.
Mm-hmm. But boy, do they get bent out of shape when that happens.
But that's the country I live in.
Mm.
I can go the next day, I guess, and protest in the same way you did. And quietly with just my plan. I can do that in my country if I choose to. Right? We hold space for that.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever it is that's going on right now in the city, and Jody Gontek got caught on that once, not this year, but at the end of last year, Christmas and Hanukkah. There was an event she was supposed to go to, and then the organizing event made it more, added something about and to show support for Israel. And it's sort of like, listen, I can go to a Hanukkah event like this, but as mayor of the city, in a show support for Israel event, where there are also Muslim citizens that I must also represent.
Exactly.
is an event that I can't go to, just like I could not go to an event in support of Gaza, but I could go to an event in support of the Muslim community.
Mm-hmm.
She would have had to turn down the same invitation formulated the same way from the other side because she has to represent everyone. And people got mad because, well, you're not full in on my side or you don't believe on my side. No, it's not that I don't believe in your side. It's I don't believe in pitting one side against the other here in Canada. There's a difference. Because here we all have to live together despite what is going on over there.
Mm-hmm.
And we certainly are not going to benefit from creating a climate where either group, either Jewish Canadians or Muslim Canadians, are afraid to go to the places where they worship, go to the places where they get educated, just go to cultural events that happen out in the open because the other group happens to exist in the country as well.
Well,
that is a climate that is not acceptable for either.
The thing that just pisses me off to no end is like you're shooting at a school where children attend. How many of those children actually launched bombs on Palestinians in Gaza? Right, none. How many of their parents had anything to do with the bombing that's going on? None. Why are you doing this? You're stupid. You're stupid and I want to smack you. Don't do this. You have a right to protest. If you want to protest, go ahead. I don't know what the hell you're protesting for. It's not going to solve a damn thing. We need to let the government know that we're not happy about this. Okay. And how do you expect our government to stop a war in another nation? I mean it. This is I've taken this position from the get-go. How do we stop this? I see the parades and the protest parades constantly in this city. I'm like, what are you solving? What are you fixing? Who is benefiting? Nothing gets fixed. We don't have the power to stop that war as a nation. We don't. The only nation who could stop it, if they wanted to, is the United States of America, because they have the most powerful military might the world has ever known. They could stop it tomorrow if they chose to. But they're not. So ask yourself the bigger question. Why aren't they? Who's benefiting? Who's profiting?
Mm-hmm. So according to the CBC here, this was an article on the 20th. They say this is the third time. It's the same school, indeed. It's a Jewish girls' elementary school in North York. The other two times there was a shooting also happened to coincide with well, actually not both times, but one time. So the first time was in October, which coincided with it was on the Jewish holiday of Yom Kippur.
Oh, okay.
And then it happened in May. And if I'm not mistaken, Yom Kippur is the holiday or the observance day where people ask for repentance.
I don't know. I'm not versed well enough.
People ask for forgiveness. So yes, the Day of Atonement. Okay. So it's the holiest day.
Oh, I knew that
on the calendar.
Purim and Yom Kippur are like the two biggest. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I know both of them, those shootings also happened in the early morning hours when the school was empty. A 17-year-old boy and a 20-year-old man were arrested and charged with multiple firearms offenses in connection to the October shooting. Both individuals are still in custody. Different people in December, clearly. So, no one was hurt, no one was injured, but it doesn't take away from the severity of the situation, says Rabbi Nachum Sosover.
No.
Rabbi Yaakov Vidal, school's principal, says it has been a very difficult year. Quote, parents are concerned, frustrated, and fearful. Students are afraid, staff are afraid, and no one should be afraid to come to school. No one should be afraid sending their child to school, and that's exactly it. We cannot allow this climate to be created for anyone. For anyone. Nobody should be afraid to just live their life, their authentic life. I don't, so yeah, you know, municipally, these type of events are happening more and more. Protests are becoming violent. Other people are not being allowed the space to advocate for their own causes. People are doing things like shooting at schools in the middle of the night, which, okay, the people doing it might be going, okay, we're not putting anybody in danger. We're doing it in the middle of the night. Yes, but you're making people terrified.
Indeed.
You're sending the message. If you shoot up a school at the middle of the night, nothing says you can't shoot it up in the middle of the day, which means you're not safe anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Now you have children that are afraid to go to school to learn.
When you hear members of the Jewish community saying it is that in their lifetimes they've never been more afraid to be openly Jewish, that some people don't put a menorah in their window.
Yes. Afraid of
We
being
cannot
attacked.
allow for this climate, and for anyone, Jewish, women, gay, Islam, trans, the indigenous, anybody.
It's not a climate I want to live in. It isn't. I don't want to live in a climate like that, where people are afraid to just be who they are.
Live and let live, one love, love all.
It's not that complicated.
Just so this municipally, even though we've been talking about the protests or whatnot, the whole part of not using our cities as battlegrounds is a severely underreported story. We should not be turning our cities into battlegrounds. All right. So that was the municipal stuff that I had forgotten to mention yesterday. Now, more fun stuff, however. Mr. Grizzly, and I'm sure that you will enjoy this. In the world of sports, with regard to Canada, I think I would think that the big story of this year is the Olympics. And I know that first we would be inclined to just say summer. But the entire Olympics and Paralympics, the whole games period this time around, was pretty darn spectacular.
Oh, yes.
I mean, we had summer.
The summer of summer.
And then there was the whole scandal about the opening ceremony. Because somebody decided that a fashion show was Da Vinci. It was a blasphemous thing.
Well, and it was the Feast of Dionysus, and they're like, no, it's the Last Supper. Right. No, it was not.
No, it's not.
People want to see a problem where one doesn't exist.
Yes. Then we had the whole soccer drone thing on its own, which on its own would have made the Olympics the story of the year. Then you get summer. Then you get the highest number of medals by Team Canada in a non-boycotted Olympics. Then you get the soccer redemption story, making it into the playoffs.
Yes, after they had all their points stripped from them at that point.
Yes. And then you top off the whole Olympics that started with Team Canada, the cheaters, whatnot, ending with Ellie Black getting the sportsmanship award. And some were sprinkled in there. You got the 4x100
men's relay team who beat the Americans in dramatic fashion.
Yes, and the first gold medal in breakdancing.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, by any stretch of like summer, yes, absolutely Olympic, and then add the whole Paralympics where you have Aurélie Rivard in her 4th Paralympic Games, still being the star of the games, bringing back a whole set. And then the others, swimmer, oh my God, I wish I could remember, Nicholas, his last name is escaping me off the top of my head, who was double gold medalist in his first one.
Yeah. Yeah, we had
And again, for Team Canada, the first Paralympic Games in a long time where we've increased our medal total as new countries are still joining. And also the para athletes getting full compensation for their medals.
about bloody time.
There are so many stories. I mean, all at once.
Mm-hmm.
All at once.
Precedent was set.
Yes, exactly. Like this was a whole new standard for Team Canada in Summer Games. It was just an entire level. There's no possible way this class of athletes, this entire class, the class of 2024, could have made us any more proud. There's just no way. And then that interview moment we had with the para athlete from sitting volleyball, who made it like very clear that para is not, when we're talking about Paralympics, is not paraplegic, but parallel.
Correct.
Just come on. So for me, and I'm biased, I know, because I love the Olympics to start with, but by any stretch, these were just great games for Canada. So that would be up there with me. In there, of course, Summer McIntosh individually, swimmer of the year, female athlete of the year, racking up all the awards. In there, we also had other big news, right? We had Kylie Mass becoming the most decorated medalist swimmer in Canadian history at World Championships with her 20th medal. We had Maggie McNeil, who retired this year.
And I have every reason to believe that Summer McIntosh will surpass Kylie Mass if because she just turned 18. She's only getting started.
Yes. We have Christine Sinclair, who officially retired this year as well. We have Freddie Freeman from the Dodgers, who hit the no walk grand slam to clinch the World Series, and was the MVP. His bat just got sold for auction for a few million. It's just this guy, like, it's the only reason they could somewhat call it a World Series is because there's one team in the whole league that's not from the United States like this, and a Canadian is the MVP of the World Series. Like, come on.
Well, as cool as that is, and I think that is awesome, you cannot mention the Dodgers without talking about Shohei Ohtani, who is an absolute freak of nature.
Yes, absolutely. He did the 50-50 thing.
Yeah, no, he did things nobody else has ever done, number one. And number two, he's a pitcher, but he didn't pitch this season because he was injured.
Yeah, and the 10 runs batted in one game?
Yeah.
Are
this
you
guy
kidding
is not
me?
normal. There's never been a baseball player like him. I mean, never. Nobody's ever done the things he's done. And he's just getting started, man. It was amazing to watch.
And then there's that Canadian basketball player, NCAA, I think 7'9", Olivier Rioux.
Yeah, from Montreal, who has still growing, by the way.
Yes, and I did he win the most recognized player or the best players like in the whole NCAA or something?
I'm not sure.
This year in basketball, but this guy, I mean, you're going to be hearing his name all over the place. There was the whole uproar at the beginning of the Canadian Women Curling Championships when the lead suddenly was not curling, and nobody knew why at first. And then we found out it was because there was a positive test for a type of drug that a couple of other Canadians had been found with. And it turns out that in that case, it was a drug that you can actually get through your skin and whatnot. And it was their life partners that were using it for their own development, and it kind of got into other people's systems. So so they're dealing with that to try and clear her name. But it is that type of thing. But
Mhm.
the team had decided to remain silent about it, which created a lot of
Suspicion.
yeah. Well, suspicion, maybe not handled in the best way that way. But we talked to Devin about it, and he did give us some good insight
Mhm.
in there about how that thing actually happens, and that
Yes,
they
yes.
did do the right thing ultimately. But from the outside, as it was happening, we couldn't understand it.
No, and we had so little information at the time, so it made it, difficult
Yeah.
for us to fully comprehend. But we need to get Devin back on at some point in time and have a chat with him about the past year for sure. I realize we're in January now, but we can still review the past year.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know?
And then there's also and that's my final one, the figure skating pair of Diana Stellato Dudek and Maxime Deschamps, who Dudek, uh, at the age I think of 40, became a world champion in pairs figure skating.
Yeah, that's kind of awesome.
Just couldn't find the right partner her entire life, and he's 32. So
Yeah.
both of them just couldn't find the right partner, and all of a sudden,
approaching the end of their career, right?
Yep, world champions.
Yeah.
Never too old.
No, stick with it. Maybe it works out. Maybe it doesn't.
Some people are just late bloomers.
Keep hope alive. All that.
We're seeing that more. Pardon?
We are seeing that more, but it's largely to do with the fact that over the last 50 years we've adapted by eating healthier foods, having a better diet, getting more exercise, rest, recovery, things they've discovered through sports science on how to recover quicker. After an event like that, get on the bike and ride the bike for 15 minutes to get the lactic acid out so that your body can bounce back faster. Ways to treat injuries that we couldn't before. I mean, if Bobby Orr had his knee issue today, it wouldn't be a thing. It wouldn't have ended his career. It would have been, oh yeah, you'll be in and out. Don't worry, you'll be back in 6 weeks. You remember Eric Carlson had his Achilles tendon was 1 millimeter from being slashed in two. And he came back and played hockey that season in the playoffs. I'm like, what? That's unbelievable. And that's sports medicine has advanced so much in the last 50 years. And again, sports science, along with, like I said, rest, recovery, relaxation, training times are augmented. Diets are built specifically for athletes by nutritionists and their coaches to help them attain their absolute best. And yes, you are correct, Mohan. Sports medicine is at the forefront of medical care. It absolutely is. Sports medicine and battlefield medicine, but
yes,
but
indeed.
those two things really do advance medical care for the rest of us.
Oh, we a new kit that I have not noticed before on the chat. So if you're new, welcome. But Kit Lisa Conley, we need more figure skaters. I coach it. Lisa, if you go back in our files, earlier this year, we had an interview with Lorraine Ostigui, who has worked with the Canadian women's hockey team in terms of teaching them skating skills, and also Les Suprêmes, Montreal, in terms of the larger group synchro skating. Thank you. The word was escaping me. So you might want to go out and check that out. It was a particularly engaging interview, and we learned a lot.
Yeah, it was really cool. And that was on International Women's Day.
Yes, indeed. Yes. So yeah, so thank you for remembering that. So if I make it easier to find, so it's sometime in early March.
Well, and it was the night before a buddy of mine was over, and he was suggesting that we talk to her, and he told me all about her. I said, yeah. So we reached out, and she's like, yeah, I'll do it. And you were like, who is this, and what is this about? And I'm like, trust me, you're gonna love it. Have I ever steered you wrong?
No.
So when I say trust me, you can.
Oh yes, absolutely. I was like, okay, we got this. Just hand over the reins. Mr. Grizzly's driving the bus today.
Well, and I'm going to put it into cruise control while I go and get myself some coffee. Now, I haven't made coffee yet today, so I got to grind the beans and put it together. So it's going to be a couple minutes. I got to be honest with you, but I desperately need. This was what was left in the carafe, and it's just I need more than one cup of coffee this morning. So if you bear with me, I'll come back in a few minutes.
Bear with
You
the
got
bear.
it. You got it. You got it. I'll be back shortly.
All right, Kits and Cubs, he's gone. Let's talk about him. No. All right, Kits
I
and
can
Cubs.
still hear you.
I know. Okay. Oh, man. I love this guy. Oh, geez. All right. So yes, indeed, aren't we a generous bunch this day? We have 9 out of the 10 donations. So Kit Janet S, Kit Janet S says, "Woohoo, dance party." Kit Tavi G says, "Dust off your shoes and kick some." I'm gonna guess that's ass. You can kick some. I'm gonna throw some ass if we get that 10th one. By the way, looking for a good song to shake it to? Throw Some Ass by Sophie Tucker, Sofytukker. One of my favorite bands out there. Good tune. Let's see, Kit Cassie Lake from Kit Cassie Lake's son, the welder. Okay, so we got Cassie Lake, I believe, herself, and then the cowboy, and then the welder. So that's one family that really wants to see us dance. We got Kit Tom here. "You're not falling short on account of my inaction. No, sirree." Kit Swanky Frankie saying, sending us your #1 emoji with their contribution. And Jay Crick, as we mentioned earlier, with a little note that says, "For the kids." Jason, is it Alan or Alain? Let me know if it's pronounced, or Elaine. It could also be that. Not quite sure the pronunciation, but Kit Jason, "Only to see Grizzly dance, and because this is the best podcast out there." Kit Diane, "I'm in. I want to see a grizzly dance." Kit Cassie with the coffee from the cowboy. And Kit Carol, as we mentioned. Mishadika from Kit's Mateo, Jazzy, and Rain. "We want a dance party." And Kit Tavi G coming in with 2 bids, really trying to make it happen here. And Mishadika was the first one in, saying, like, I look like a cute gnome today. So one more away, and we get that dance party. Kits and Cubs, really looking forward to that. All right, let's see. So we've done the world of sports this year. The other category that I had picked up was in the world of climate, and of course in Canada it's probably going to be as we talked about it in our provincial stories, but really the Jasper wildfire was probably the biggest of all the climate related stories in terms of this year. Fortunately, our forest fire season was not as bad as we had expected it to be, given it was the second year of the El Nino. I think that it is this time, or is it La Nina? El Nino, this one, which is makes it such that Earth's temperatures are a little hotter than normal to begin with, but usually the second year packs more of a wallop, and we got very fortunate when it came to wildfires that the second year was not as bad, but still a pretty significant year in terms of forest fires. And the one that struck Jasper National Park was particularly newsworthy, not only because of its size, but because of decisions that the UCP government had made previously to cut in the wildfire management budget, and people wondering specifically if things were more destructive than they had needed to be had the services and programs been maintained. And also something about Danielle Smith, the premier, putting out a Jasper Strong message while showing image of mountains not in Canada. Yes. And there was also the moment she allegedly cried.
Allegedly.
Some say is sincere. and I would like to believe it's sincere, but I still have not been able to wrap my head around how you sincerely cry and then get the mountain wrong shortly after.
I mean, don't you have staff to take care of these things? And staff that would know,
It's a
anything about
mountain
the province that you reside in?
of which you are the premier.
Yeah.
Look, a mountain that brings in a lot of tourist dollars and is internationally recognized worldwide,
Yeah.
you would think. So, yeah, just again, not saying she doesn't care, but the level of care was not reflected in what came after.
Never has been with her either.
Yeah. So that would on climate with regard to Canada, I think that was probably the biggest story of the year. I don't know if you had any other thoughts or something.
My only thought is,
I'd
my
forgotten.
camera keeps doing this. I don't know what is going on. It's just gone haywire for some reason. My software is just, I don't know. I don't know what's happening. It drives me nuts. Sorry about that. It just really upsets me.
All right.
Because it's technology that I've paid for. Actually, I didn't pay for the camera. That was a gift from Logitech. But nevertheless, the software shouldn't be so defective that it resets itself every 30 minutes for some bizarre reason. I don't know what's happening there. The coffee's starting to brew, so I'll get up in a moment to grab a cup once there's enough that's in the pot for me to, get a full cup of coffee out of.
All right.
Minus 33 in Manitoba right now, Cassie's saying. That's a little on the chilly side. It's only minus 17 in Canada's capital right now, so it's not too bad here.
Indeed. All right. With regard to activists this year that we wanted to mention. Now, again, some of us, most of these choices are particularly biased because they are people that we've either had an association with or passed through the Beaver Lodge this year. But the first one is not. Cindy Blackstock often shows up on our lists because it was a big year. It looked like the settlement was going to be all finalized, and the AFN had recognized that there were certain things about it that made it such that certain groups were not being treated the same as the others, and pushed back. And even though she's been at this, I think at least 20 years so far, she's sticking with the issue, and she's still there and trying to make sure that not only is justice there, not only is compensation there, but the money that needs to be there to fund a system that is Indigenous led for the future is there, and that everybody that needs to be recognized gets recognized in a manner that's as appropriate and fair as possible. And she will not stop until the work is done, and she's leaving no one behind. It seems that, good enough. We've got 95% of them, and not good enough. She wants 100% of them because they were all done wrong. And I just, I don't know how you don't admire that, because this is something that, she maybe somebody thinks they get into, what, I'll be doing this for 3 years. Maybe if things get really bad, 5 or 6, but it'll be done. And it's been over 20.
Yeah.
That's how you know they're not phoning it in, right? And that's the true commitment to the cause. Because at any time, because this is just like, again, still another delay, still, that's it. Put your hands up.
Yeah.
And she never did that.
That's something that I think many of us would do. Just get so frustrated. But you got to remember, the system is designed to frustrate you like that so that you do give up. That is how the system is built. Like it or not, it's built that way intentionally. And we're seeing examples of it becoming even more radicalized, and the lineup of corporate favoritism in the U.S. especially, but we're seeing it here in this country. And I'm telling you, if we elect a conservative government, welcome to for-profit healthcare.
Indeed.
Welcome to Weston Wellness Centers, where we'll rehab your loved ones and bring them home drug free.
Ooh, see, I see what you did there.
Yeah,
I see what you did there.
you know damn well it'll
Marketing
happen.
tie-in.
You know damn well it'll happen, though.
Oh yeah, no doubt. So,
Spend public money on private institutions, private for-profit institutions, to the benefit of their funders.
Yeah.
Or shall I say their puppet masters? Call it what you want. That's what I'm going to call it.
So we have Cindy Blackstock, of course, and then as people that we've dealt with this year or that have appeared on our show. So we had Keith Stewart from Greenpeace, who not only came on our show, but later on in the year, there was the protest in front of
Stornoway.
I believe Stornoway, that netted him some headlines there. We have
I
Gail
really like
Costello.
Keith.
I like him too.
Keith.
We need
And
to
you
have
know
him have him just alone one time. Yeah.
Well, you know what was really cool though was, so Army Chris, our buddy, was thinking, oh boy, here we go with a Greenpeace. And by the end of it, he was like, no, I love this guy because he's speaking the truth. He's like, look, it's not practical to have an electric vehicle in northern Ontario or northern Manitoba or northern Saskatchewan or northern BC. In remote rural areas, it is not practical for people to switch over to electric vehicles. He goes, it doesn't work. He goes, you get into cities, sure. But in smaller rural areas, small towns and communities where the infrastructure doesn't exist, it makes no sense. And that was the thing he won Army Chris over, by being truthful and honest and not radical, just telling the truth. It doesn't make sense in places like that to have a vehicle of that nature.
But the attitude becomes, don't let the places where it doesn't make sense stop you from doing it in the places where it does.
Well, yes, right? Exactly.
Right? It's almost like for those who are members of the Good Life Fitness Club, right? They have that motto, don't let the things you can't do stop you from doing the things you can. Similar. Okay, so we don't have the technology that's ready for up there, but we do have the technology that's ready for downtown Toronto.
Yes.
Right? So there's a way to talk about this issue and to bring it back, to bring it around, and to bring people around. Because that doesn't make them think like, oh my God, we're coming for your F-150 if you live in Cold Lake. It's like, no, we're not. It's like, the whole point is to try to make this as seamless as possible. That's the point. That's the goal. So it's like there's no need to go out of our way, like to make you suffer if the world is not ready for you yet. Like there's plenty more of the world to work on until the technology gets to you. So, but it needs to be talked about that way. You have to be realistic, and that helps everyone, right? The people that are more fearful about change and the people that want change, that want everything done now. It's like, I understand, but there are certain people, you have to accept that there are certain people for whom this is not going to work right now. And you have to accept, not that we're not going to do it, but in the order for the priorities that we're going to do this one might not be the first priority.
Agreed.
And it's all not going to get done in 1 year anyway. So, we can stagger a few things. Doesn't mean we're not committed. So, right. But yeah, I liked him too, and we should have him back. We have Gail Costello. We had been trying to get on the show for a long time education activist, and through that became a rainbow activist for kids in school, and came on our show, and extremely impassioned case made for why it is that we need to allow kids to just be their authentic selves. And again, another person who's been putting in the work for years.
Oh, yes.
Years. Not just a new person to the party here. We had Guy Felicella, very, very briefly. Not enough. We didn't have enough Guy, so we do want to
Well,
still talk to him one-on-one because
we'd
I mean,
love to have a
20
long
minutes with
form.
Guy is not enough.
Yeah, we'd love to have a long form interview with him, but he only had a little bit of time.
Yeah.
He was
Well, he was
very
in
much
demand there. He was
Well,
at work
I mean,
there.
he was working there, and the thing was, I went up to meet him, and I said, I'd like to have a chat. And he goes, yeah, okay. I've got like 20 minutes shortly after 2:00. I'm like, no problem. So I just hung out, checked out some stuff, and talked. But all these people were coming up to meet him. It was incredible because they're like, you are an advocate like no other, and you have the lived experience that people need to hear about. I'm like, yeah, no kidding. So yeah, we'd love to get him on and have a long form. We'd have to record it, obviously, because he's out in Vancouver and it's 4 a.m. when we start in Vancouver. So I wouldn't expect anybody to get up at that early. I'm crazy enough to do it, but I don't expect anybody else.
Yeah, indeed. And then the last person I had on our list is Mr. Chris Morasti, who joined us for the mental health walk from La Ronge, Saskatchewan with the Men of the North program.
Yes.
And really bought in to our concept and helped it such that we actually could say we were somewhat national in our first year. Yeah. Pretty much because of him.
Well, and they really bought into the idea behind it. So something we have to get going on this year is
yep.
Because now we are in 2025, we have to get our charitable organization staffed up and ready to go and see what we can do about that. I will reach out to a friend of mine who can help us with that. He's set up organizations in the past. I'll reach out to him so we can get that rolling so that we can have our second annual mental health walk on the Saturday before Father's Day.
Mm-hmm. Right. So let's stay forward with that. And I'm having some communications with certain people to try to see if we can get a couple of contributions to cover the administrative costs.
Okay.
Because printing and sending out the T-shirts does cost something. And if we want all of your donations to go to the organizations, then we need somebody who's going to cover the cost of printing and shipping the T-shirts. So that's last year we did that, but hopefully as the event grows, we'd hope to have some partners with that, because if the event, let's say, for example, the mental health walk decides to grow faster than the show does, because more people want to support the idea of everybody getting together for men's mental health than merely a political show.
Mm-hmm.
Because one has the potential to rally way more people than the other. If we have to pay the cost for every T-shirt and shipping for everyone, the show will be bankrupt.
Yeah, we can't afford to do that.
So we do need this for the future. Some people that can, some organizations and businesses that could help us with that. So Kits and Cubs, if you're out there and you happen to have any contacts and plugs, people that would, some organizations that would like to earn a little extra goodwill by participating in something, please definitely let them know about us, or send some information to us on that.
Something I would an idea that I've been kicking around, and we discussed it once before briefly on the show, is that I'm going to reach out to my city councilor, Ariel Troster, and ask if she would be willing, along with any other councilors, to the weekend of the mental health walk. They knock off early on Friday, on a Friday, and then do 24 hours in the Minto Park right over here on Elgin Street, because they do this in the autumn. I'd like to see them do it in the summer so that nobody freezes, but I want them to do 24 hours with no cell phone, no money, no food. You survive on what anybody brings you. You have 24 hours to do this, and then when that is done, we meet them at the park at the end of the mental health walk, and then they come over to the pub with us and sit down, and we have the pubcast, and we get to discuss with city councilors what their experience was like and how it affected their mental health. And I do realize that's sort of slightly detracting from men's mental health, except there are more men living on the street than there are women. And that's changing, and that demographic is shifting, and that's not a good demographic to begin with. We shouldn't have anybody living on the streets. We're a very wealthy country. There's no need for that. But I'd like to be able to see if we can get a couple of city councilors. I'd like to get them all to do it, one 24-hour period to experience what it's like to truly be without food, shelter, water, a toilet. Experience what it's like to really go through that for 24 hours. It's just 24 hours. And then we meet them and they come and discuss what they went through. See if they'll do it.
Okay.
I don't have a letter made up for that yet, Carol, but Mademoiselle Fox will be able to help me draft something. She is a writer. And of course, Mr. Beaver is also a writer. So between the two of you guys, I'm sure we can come up with something.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. Okay. Let's see. What else do we have here? Okay. Journalists. Got to talk about them.
Getting a coffee. Be right back.
Okay. The one who slid in near the end of the year and stole my heart is Karen. I'm gonna guess it's pronounced Sholin from Breakfast TV, who was not on her usual beat, was replacing somebody, and had an interview with the leader of the opposition, and rattled him because she actually insisted on an answer to her question, stated that what he had given her was not one. And then when he got particularly rude and ventured in with something like, "Were you not awake on Monday?" Gave him the best unimpressed face I have seen from a journalist and ever. Was literally like, and nothing moved. Nothing. It's like this. I'm sure that when he said it, there was something inside that went, because nothing showed. Tone of voice didn't show. She just came up with the next question. It's like, and pointed out, where it is he was failing to give her audience that to which they should reasonably be entitled to expect when being asked a direct question. She rocked my world.
Yes, I particularly love that interview, the way she held him to task and said that, with all due respect, that's not an answer. Oh, damn.
She rocked my world. Somebody who might come as a surprise, not typically on our list, but Mr. John Ibbotson of the Globe and Mail. More on the conservative side of things, but hasn't stood out very in the past couple of years for having positions that make it sound like, who are you again? Which country are you writing for again? Recently announced his retirement. Had a great book out, I think this year, about Lester B. Pearson, if I'm not mistaken. I'd have to double check that. But just, he will continue and have other projects that he will be pursuing. But yeah, he's, I think he's stepping down from the Globe and Mail itself.
Oh, wow.
And so sort of like, sorry, not Pearson, Diefenbaker.
Oh, John Diefenbaker.
His book. Yeah, Diefenbaker. Actually, the book is called Diefenbaker, Pearson, and the Making of Modern Canada. And it's called The Duel. An instant national bestseller. I mean, just, and I mean, good research and whatnot. So, yeah, definitely for him for that. Like I said, it's always good to read what the other side is writing, what the other side is saying, and with him, for the most part, you could get the sense that you were dealing with more of a progressive conservative. Mr. Ibbotson is also someone that has, in his writings and in his public stances, has championed rainbow causes, even though, economically and whatnot, finds himself on the economic side of the ledger. So, an actual progressive conservative throughout his career. So, as he's moving on from that, wanted to highlight him this year as one of the journalists that I paid attention to. Chantal Hébert, as always, especially in this time where things seem to be going sideways and news seems to be moving faster than ever. I think probably the fact that she doesn't own a TV set maybe makes it so that it just seems that when she gives us the take, she slows us all down. It's like, okay, I know you guys are all galloping forward, but let's just calm down.
Yeah.
And take a look what's going. So I like her for that. She makes me feel that she can stretch time in order to explain it in a short period. For me, probably my journalist of the year, and again, it's going to sound biased, but it's Devin Heroux.
Well, it sounds biased, but I mean, his writing this year was spectacular. His reporting was spectacular. Some of the articles that he filed for the CBC website were just incredible. So, no, I agree with you.
His profile on the two hockey players,
yes,
and their life together was an incredible piece of writing. But then when you think, right, Paris, back to back, Olympics and Paralympics, he does both. He's one of the few international broadcasters who stays and does both. And he does them, as he told us in an interview, because he believes they are equally important. So therefore, why do one and leave for the other, or leave somebody else?
I agree.
And at these games, he's got the two marquee sports. He's got swimming week 1, track and field week 2.
Yeah.
Okay. That on top of that curling show and all the other things that he's done. This particular year, he has been away from home the most he has ever been in any year since he started reporting. So when you think about the coverage of those two games, that dynamic with all the actual news that came from that, with the drone thing and just, actual news having to be reported as well. The whole opening ceremonies thing, over and above the sports story, being away from home, people that you love, all that amount of time, and then going and doing all the other events and maintaining that curling show and doing it in such a way that at not one time did he ever stick his foot in his mouth with all that time on TV.
He's a seasoned professional. He's very passionate at what he does, and as he was
but
told
at some point statistically, something comes out wrong.
A long time ago, you're really good at this, but you need to be yourself and stop trying to hide who you are. And it was, who was it who told him that? It was
Kathleen
Petty. Yes. And he said it was a life-changing moment for him. And I'm like, well, obviously, because you came into your own. You were not hiding who you are anymore. And why should you? Right?
Yeah. And the great part with that is that along with that, now we have other groundbreaking journalists. Look, we have Shireen Ahmed.
Oh, yes.
Right? Reporting about, with the great quote about soccer after the thing. I wish I could remember it off the top of my head, but it was brilliant. That little quip, that pun. But again, we have Muslim women wearing hijabs, CBC, sports.
Yeah.
Olympic level sports.
Traditionally dominated by white males.
Kicking ass.
Yeah.
Right? That's a door he opened. You can be the completely unconventional. I mean, really, a gay boy from Saskatchewan reporting on sports. Who saw that coming 40 years ago?
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding.
So it's like, you don't report sports like this, but we have that kind of now you watch an NHL game, there's always someone, Cassie Campbell or somebody, in the, now it's, but all these positions, I remember when there was, when we had a woman coach Team Canada's women's hockey team for the first time. I think Danielle Sauvageau, I think her name was, and everybody was like, "Oh my God!" But why not? Why not? Right? So good coaches. Who said only women have to coach women's teams? Now there are some women coaching men's teams.
Well, and why not? If you're a coach, you're a coach. If you can play,
You're
you can play, right? That's the NHL's motto. If you can play, you can play.
right.
So it's a good motto to have. If you can coach, you can coach. Period. Doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
So, and then of course, Devin also getting the King Charles Medal this year too. I
Mhm,
mean, it was just
It was a good
I
year
mean, it
for
was
him.
a great year for him, I guess. And the other one that had similar, I believe, is from TSN. Um, Greg Westlake. No, not Greg Westlake. Sorry, no, he was the Paralympic flambeer. Is it Rick Westlake or Westland? But he was the person that was bringing us uh, from TSN the really, really in-depth analysis from Team Canada during the drone scandal. We had actually read a couple of his articles uh, into the record here, and that's when we had the conversation um, about how sports writers are often some of the best journalists, particularly because of their ability to use words and paint a vivid image. Right? Because the way that they do things for regular sports,
Mhm.
like this, they got to bring the action to you. They got to bring it alive. So the way that they put together things together and paint a picture. Well, when we're talking about this topic now and what all the dynamics were going inside and out, so basically giving us the play-by-play of how that went down. Because in a sports phrasing, so we really did get the flavor of what it was, when they were having that meetings and, when the person went back and says, like, I don't want to do this anymore. Right. It was just vivid writing. And it was an opportunity for a sports reporter
Mhm.
who's a veteran, who really knows his stuff, like to not just say, who caught the ball, who ran the furthest, who won. But is there an actual problem in our soccer program? And it turns out that
There
not only
was.
was there quite a soccer program, but it went back to the days potentially of Mr. Herdman.
Yeah, yeah. So that we gotta. We have some splaining to do.
Mhm.
Soccer Canada has some splaining to do. What happens? What comes of this? I don't know. The part that pisses me off though is that the players suffer the brunt for somebody else's decisions.
Yeah.
Because the players weren't
Yeah.
aware that any of this was happening, but
Nope.
they're the ones who have to pay the price for somebody else's short-sightedness or demand to want to win so bad. And I get it. We all want to win, but look, I would never. This is how I was raised. If I have to cheat to win, it's not worth winning. Because I didn't earn it. I don't deserve it. So, and I know the players would feel the same damn way. They want to know that they've earned that medal through their blood, sweat, and tears, not because somebody cheated to get them on the podium, especially in a team sport. There might be one or two players on the team that might go along with it, but I can guarantee you the vast majority do not want to win that way. They just don't. Every team I've ever been on, there's always been one or two persons who would, bend the rules as much as they could. And I'd be like, no, man, don't do that. Don't do that. I want to know that if we won, we did so because we earned it.
Right. The journalist in question that I was trying to remember is Rick Westhead from TSN. Just like I said, fantastic journalism. So for me, those were the best journalists of the year. The two I appreciated less. And you know what? I know I can do the Brian Lillys and the Keans and whatnot. And I mean, they have a perennial spot on the list. But this year in particular, two stood out for me. One of them is the CBC's JP Tasker.
Mm-hmm.
A lot I find is super heavily slanted, and very much heavily slanted to the Trudeau must go type thing. The questions that he asks, the way that he formulates them, when he's doing less journalism and on panels and giving opinion, the framing is consistently pushing that. And unlike Andrew Coyne, as subtle as Andrew Coyne is not, every now and then, it's not subtle. Unlike Andrew Coyne.
No.
So yeah, it's off-putting enough that as I'm reading the stories or hearing his commentary, it actually there's like scratch on the record. Really? There's no better way to have formulated that or presented that or framed that, really? So that one struck me. And this year, John Ivison. I do not know what happened to that man, but as
He's
much
no relation
as
to our friend Marianne, by the way. She says that all the time. She's like, we're not related.
Yes. As much as Brian Lilly allegedly makes his career looking Doug Ford's golden clean, I don't. I mean, as soon as it was President-elect Trump, he is like, he's already got his U.S. passport. He's like sold us out, got citizenship, has got his passport, and is traveling on it already. I mean, whoa.
I used to enjoy his writing when it was fair and balanced.
Right.
It's no longer that way. And I'll get accused of, oh, you just liked it when he said left-wing talking points. No, when it was fair and balanced, and it's not anymore. And that is the problem. So many in legacy media have thrown out that doctrine. Fair and balanced. No, they're not. They're not balanced. It's not fair. It's always leaning to one side or the other, and usually it's leaning to the right. The vast majority of newspapers in this country, we know, are owned by Post Media, which is owned by Chatham Asset Management, which is an American right-wing hedge fund, evangelical, motivated, tied to the Republican Party, which is why they jump up and down and with moments of joy whenever something bad happens to the Prime Minister. And when something good happens for Canadians, they try and downplay it. What was it they said the other day? Something, I forget, we did talk about it. It said one in five people thought that the government overreached during the pandemic. 1 in 5. So you're saying the vast majority of Canadians actually approved of the government's measures.
Yeah.
They just like to spin it in a different direction. When the vast majority
because it could have been 4 or 5 or 80% of Canadians agree. Would have been, and therefore it's not a story.
Yes.
I mean, it is a story. 80% of Canadians agree that this is a story, but
it's not going to.
1 in 5 disagree with. I think what's wrong with it is much more of a story than most everybody thought that was okay.
And of course you'll have Pierre Poilievre who will, every time the Canadian press says, "Oh, you work for Justin Trudeau. You're funded by the Liberal government." I'm like, so is Post Media. It's part of their business plan is to accept money from the federal government. It's literally part of their business plan.
Yeah. Yep.
They said so. in a letter to shareholders, they said so.
Yep.
But it's only if because the Post Media always says pro-Poilievre talking points. So he won't shine the light on them for doing the same thing that everybody else is doing.
Nope.
When their industry is being propped up by us, the taxpayer, by getting money from the federal government. He won't talk about how the guys that he leans into get that same money that the people who say things he dislikes also do. It's hypocritical. The man is just a walking, talking hypocrite. Christ, you could put his face under the word hypocrite in a dictionary. I mean...
Yeah. You're right there. I'm right there with you. All right. Two other categories before we're done our year in review, kits and cubs.
I got a couple of quick hits for you to follow up at the end, too.
Okay. The next one we have is our influencer of the year on social media, and all social media. So this year, we read a lot of articles by Evan Scrimshaw into the record
A lot.
for,
A lot.
for some reason. We have Nitty Knits, who we've had some of her TikTok videos a couple of times that have
Lisa B.
really appealed to us. Lisa B, literally the next person on my list in the order. It's like you're reading my screen, Mr. Grizzly.
I can't see it.
Lisa B. The good people at the Peterson Project, if you haven't stumbled upon them, they're trying to start a bit of a Lincoln Project-ish type thing going on here, so they deserve your support. And, of course, Mr. Sean Rouse, who was a guest of ours once this year, but also pretty much took it upon himself to make himself a one-man clearinghouse as to what the Blaine Higgs government was doing, particularly on transgender issues, and particularly cozying up to the Fatine Grasecchis of the world, who fortunately did not win her seat.
Fortunately, she did not win her seat because that. Wow. The story she talks about how this person was dead and we stepped over, but then we put hands on it and prayed and the person came alive. Oh, really? Really? She does her speaking in tongues thing. I mean, the woman's problematic is what I'm going to say. I'm going to be polite and say she's problematic.
Ooh, I like that. Yes, I am going to give you, Mr. Griff, you get 25 Beaver points, Mr. Grizzly.
Well,
that was a good choice of words.
Well, in my ongoing endeavor to be a better human being, I need to exercise self-censorship from time to time. Sometimes I let my emotions get the better of me and say exactly what's on my mind. We've all witnessed that. But sometimes I can maintain a lid on my pressure cooker of a brain and just be a little bit more kind. For somebody who has not earned it, and I don't feel actually deserves it because of the harm that she will cause to the rainbow community and transgender kids, she's not a good person and likes to hide behind religion. And you've had people who can tell you that the religious texts that they hide behind, well, that's been a mistranslation for decades. When Jimmy Carter says Jesus never spoke about homosexuality in any way, shape, or form, he said love all. What part of that do you not understand? Right?
Well, what about the did I stutter? Love all.
And they go, well, a man who lies down with another man, that's not the text. It was a man who lies down with a boy. That's the text. That's the text.
I know that.
Yes, that's the text. You got to go in and do some reading to find it because it's well buried and they like to keep it hidden so that they can form their own agenda. You got to remember the Bible is which version, right? And the version changes to suit whatever narrative somebody wants to give you. But the actual original text was man with boy. Indeed. That's where it comes from.
Okay.
But they tried to make it into something that it isn't because it suits their agenda, their narrative.
There we go.
Biblical scholar.
There we go. Yeah. There you go. Final category, Mr. Weasley, is anything having to do with news that is related to the Indigenous community this year. Lots of big stories. One, the landfill search. The one party didn't want to do it. Another party did. The party that did won, and the search has started. And I remember before the end of the year was out, I had heard Premier Canoe stating that not only had the search started, but things that in digging, things that they happened to find. I don't think that they, without revealing if they had found any remains, but things that they had found were in better preserved state than expected. So all the things that people were saying, well, you can't do it, it's probably too decomposed by now, or everything's probably maybe not the case. So initial results from what had started from the search are leading people to be a little more hopeful that something will be found than when they started. But that might just be on stuff related to uh, I don't even know how to describe it. Science in the way that things are preserved or something, like I said, decomposed or whatnot, in a big pile of all of whatever's in there, and not necessarily because they found something. And it could be because they found something and are just not revealing that publicly at this time. But it's the search, the first reports from the search appear to be more positive than what would be originally expected. The other one, of course, there's two of them that have to do with passings. The passing of Murray Sinclair,
Mhm.
of course, which was a huge story, and also the passing of Grand Chief Kathy Merrick, which is also both of those. I think got a decent amount of time on our show, but they also stood out nationally because they were the first two funerals for Indigenous Canadians that had additional higher honors
Mhm.
to them, recognizing their contribution not only to their respective communities, but to Canada as well.
Correct. Sorry, I just
Um,
had to get up there a moment ago because Lola was going haywire. There was somebody knocking at the door who just delivered something from Lululemon. I've never ordered anything from Lululemon, so I look at the package. I didn't open it. I go, Lululemon? It's for an apartment a couple of doors down. I'm like, 611. Okay.
Yes.
Whatever.
Um,
They delivered to the wrong address. Right floor, wrong address.
The other story was the big donation to the Inuit Nunangat University, because they need $170 million to get the project duly started. And I think they got like 50 million of it from the MasterCard Foundation. And looking for a similar contribution from federal and provincial governments with a plan to raise the rest.
Well,
So that was
donated 50 million because that'll give them a massive tax break, right? That'll reduce the amount of taxes they have to pay.
Yes, but
which is fine. I don't have a problem with this at all.
I'd rather they do that than do share buybacks.
Yes, exactly.
Leave something behind.
That's where I was going. Do some good for the community. I have no problem with this whatsoever. It reduces their marginal tax rate, which means they pay less in taxes, and the community benefits by it. This is why we need to start raising the marginal tax rate over X number of millions of dollars so that this will happen more and more, like it used to in the 50s and 60s and 70s up until Reagan cut it down.
Indeed. And then the last one, which we actually did not report on the show, so we're reporting this as news, but Cassidy Caron, who had been a guest on our show, who is the president of the Métis National Council, has stepped down from that this year. And her experience may not have been as wonderful as she had hoped.
It happens.
It would be. It seems that there may have been some issues related to gender and age, according to the CBC. Well, sort of CBC. She said that she says she faced misogyny and ageism in the role while she was there. Hold on, I'm just going to bring this to the screen here, which makes it easier to look at you as I'm reading this. But from Olivia Stefanovic, and this was at the end of September. In 3 days, Cassidy Caron will leave her role as the president of the Métis National Council on the eve of the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. Caron tells CBC News the decision to step away was a difficult one. The job has taken her on journeys she never imagined. In 2022, she led a delegation of Métis residential school survivors to the Vatican to press for a papal apology, and she represented the Métis Nation at the funeral for the Queen Elizabeth II and attended the coronation of King Charles. But the role also came with many challenges, she said, including her internal political turmoil and leadership obstacles stemming from her youth and gender. And Mr. Grizzly, before I go on with this, there are some actually great images in this article. So I am going to send you it so that you can show them on the screen as I am reading this.
Okie dokie.
I absolutely have faced misogyny and ageism throughout the 3 years that I served in this term, she said, from both the Métis community, the Métis Nation itself, but also within the federal system as well. There is a sense that as a young woman, I don't have the experience to do this work. Karan said that she brought a new generational perspective to the table and built a strong team around her that launched reforms at the Métis National Council. In the fall of 2021, at age 29, Karan became the youngest person ever elected to lead the MNC. Now 32 with the baby on the way, Karan said she needs to spend more time with her family. Even though she is leaving the MNC, she said she believes a united national Métis voice is needed more than ever. We're stronger when we can add more voices to the table, more diverse voices to the table, and shape the future based on what our citizens want. Karan, who chose not to seek another term, said the Métis Nation needs the MNC as a national voice now that the Reconciliation Project appears to be slipping off the federal government's radar. That agenda has kind of remained stagnant, she said. We need to take a step back, work together with the federal government, with all parties to understand what are the priorities of the Métis Nation moving forward. How do we work that into the federal priorities? The Manitoba Métis Federation pulled out of the MNC one day before she was elected, and the Métis Nation Saskatchewan also recently decided to quit the organization. The political splits hit close to home for Karan, whose grandmother and grandfather come from the historic Métis communities of Batoche and St. Louis in Saskatchewan. It is disheartening to see the separation that is happening across the Métis Nation, she said. Karan said the MNC cannot remain stagnant and must reform and continue to have a presence in the nation's capital. If we leave Ottawa, we will be forgotten about, she said. It's important for us as an advocacy body, a lobby body, to make sure that these priorities are advanced for our communities, for our citizens. Karan said the MNC would always welcome Manitoba and Saskatchewan back. We're all related. We need to be working together, she said. There's always going to be issues that we need to come together on that we can't solve province by province. And so that greater responsibility to nationhood, I think, needs to rise to the top. Karan is also leaving behind unfinished business with the Catholic Church following her trip to the Vatican to hear Pope Francis's apology for the Church's role in residential schools. Karan said she pressed the Canadian Conference of Catholic Bishops to agree to yearly national summits to discuss the relationships between the Church and Indigenous communities. She said the conference has not responded to the proposal presented by Indigenous leaders. Quote, I've been extremely disappointed in the lack of ongoing commitment from the Catholic Church to the reconciliation process, she said. But Karan said that she was able to build bridges with other national Indigenous organizations. Natan Obed, president of the Inuit Tepirit Kanatami, said Karan's leadership strengthened relations between the Métis Nation and Inuit. Quote, I've been really thankful for Cassidy and her leadership, Obed said. It's going to be tough to fill her shoes. And Obed would know a little something about being a young leader of a national organization.
Indeed.
He's not an old man, and he's considered a veteran because his staying power already. But he's still rather young.
Well, I have a video clip here of her talking about ageism and misogyny within.
Okay.
Watch this.
I absolutely have faced, misogyny and ageism throughout the 3 years that I served in this term. Honestly, from both the Métis community, the Métis Nation itself, with the systems that have been ingrained within the way that we govern our people, but also, within the federal system as well, and representing on this national level. There is a sense that, as a young woman, I don't have the experience to do this work. And, I've been told directly to my face, you're young, you don't have the experience. But it's not necessarily about having the experience in every facet of every piece of work that we do. It's about building a strong team alongside of you who can do the work with you. I've always seen my role as the president as, a convener, a facilitator, someone who just brings more people along with us. We're stronger when we can add more voices to the table, more diverse voices to the table, and shape the future based on what our citizens want. And I'm speaking both, for the Métis Nation, but for Canada as well. We need to have those diverse voices at the table, supporting the decisions that are being made, having their voices heard. Otherwise, we carry on status quo, and that doesn't always work. Times are changing, times are evolving. We need to make sure that we're representative of our country, of our nation, both Canada and the Métis Nation, and ensuring that we create, safe spaces for women in politics, for young people in politics, for all kinds of people to be.
I mean, straight from her lips to our ears.
Indeed. Thank you for putting that. She says, we are proud to, her departing message is, we are proud to be Métis people. Take the space that you need to have your voice heard, to influence the change that needs to be made, and build a strong support network around you. She's not ruling out a return to politics someday, even as an MP or senator. But she says, I've always said that I wanted to be a mother before I wanted to be Métis National Council president. So I'll focus on motherhood for some time, but I certainly hope to remain connected in one way or another. So hopefully not the last we hear from her, but it is sad that she was not able to make as much progress as she would have hoped to.
You can't fight City Hall, right? The old saying.
Right.
You can't fight City Hall. Even when you're inside at the top of the position, you discover that people are entrenched in their beliefs, and they're not going to budge or move, and they're going to maintain the status quo. And you're going to want to shake it up, but they're not going to let you. They just won't. They won't let you shake it up.
Indeed. Did you have and then of course the final story stemming from that, as we talked about it near the end of the year, the Manitoba Métis Federation pulled out of the Métis National Council, and this year the first modern day treaty with an Indigenous group from the Métis Nation was signed. So there's an actual deal a treaty now between the Government of Canada and the Manitoba Métis Federation, designating it as the organization that speaks for the Métis all across that province, which is a historic deal and might serve as a template for other deals in the future. But that is a direct development that came from the MMF leaving the MNC. Before we go, also just the last little thing, we had a little bit of
I have a couple of things.
We lost a few people this year as well, as we mentioned, and not only Grand Chief Kathy Merrick and Maurice Sinclair over the course of the year, but Mr. Ed Broadbent, Mr. Brian Mulroney, former Prime Minister, John Fraser, Diane Dean, city councillor with a very long career in Ottawa, and commentator Rex Murphy. So this year, there may be some people that we missed on this list, but going through our own programs and the episode descriptions, those are the ones that we remember that we talked about enough, at least, to actually put them in the episode descriptions. And not just passing, because we had more to say. This, of course, politicians. There were, celebrities and other people, but sticking to the worlds of politics, or people that significantly marked Canada. Those are the ones that we had noted. If there's any that we have missed, Kits, please do put them in the chat. And before we sign off for the day, Mr. Grizzly has a couple of things, so take it away, good sir.
So first off, I want to share this image from Theo Modakis. I think this is going to be in the Toronto Star today, the Canadian Scream, and of course, who's in the background, but the silhouette of Donald Trump. And it's a play on the painting The Scream by Edvard Munch. So I wanted to share that. And then I am going to show this because I think it's 1 minute and 13 seconds. I'm not going to tell you anything about it. I want you to watch it, and then we'll discuss it on the other side. To say that it's problematic would be understatement of the year.
Okay.
Just hold on to your hats.
And by the way, put aside race, this obsession with race that wokeism has reinserted.
Well, invented even.
Invented in many ways.
When I moved to Toronto, it was as race blind as any country, as any city could be.
Right.
Right. And that's flipped. And it's flipped because of that obsessive concern with race. Right. That was something we 100% did not need in Canada.
Yeah.
Right. We basically, what would you say, imported and invented racism in Canada. Right. As a consequence of policy.
Wokeism seeks to divide people into these different groups and subgroups, and we see the results in a 250% increase in hate crimes. But we're going to get back to the basic principle that people are judged based on their individual character and humanity rather than by their group identity. And that is actually, ironically, the most unifying thing we can do to bring our country back together. And as Lincoln put it, to bind up.
Okay. Saucy hit it right on the head. Two white boys talking about race. Two middle-aged white men telling us that there was no racism in Canada 50 years ago. Shut your pie hole, you ignorant assholes.
Well, I'm not sure if they're saying there was no racism, but they said like we were race blind. Yes. And how was that working out for the people of other races other than yours at the time?
Exactly. He's lost his lofty position in this world, and now he's pissed about it.
But he's not lost his lofty position.
I know, that's the thing. He just thinks he did.
He's raking it in for like literally doing no work, for being someone who bashes on these people. I'm just like, where is the problem in your life? You're famous and you get people throwing money at you for literally phoning it in. I could wake up tomorrow like this, film myself in a beautiful venue and start saying the worst possible things about other people, but trying to make it sound pseudo-intellectual. I mean, most of us would be able to do that. Anybody that can engage in the pseudo-intellectual language could do that. He's got it real damn good. He's getting paid for doing no work that's of any value whatsoever to anybody. He's literally just sits in front of a camera and bitches and moans and complains, and people throw money at him.
Yeah.
To do it. And I know that sounds a little ironic right now.
Yes, I know. I get that. Oh, but we can't live off of this.
But it's like, as I am saying this, I realize that I am bitching and moaning and complaining, hoping people will throw money at me.
We don't have
I get the irony.
We don't have a narrative, though. We're not trying to steer anybody in the wrong direction. We just want to get facts out to people. That's it. That's all. I have one more clip that you got to see to believe.
God,
it's 40 seconds. You got to see this to believe it, because when I tell you time and time again, he's going to cut all the social programs that the current government of Canada has brought in, and more so. I keep telling people this, and they keep saying, you're being ridiculous. Yeah? Well, from his lips to your ears, watch this.
So the socialist policies that provide goods and services to Canadians, let's say, or denizens of other countries, by printing money, actually punish the poor brutally.
Oh, absolutely.
In consequence of the inflation that they generate.
Yes. I mean, all the socialist policies in practice redistribute from the working class to the super wealthy in practice. Mm-hmm. And I can prove that again and again and again.
In theory.
In practice.
Yeah.
In practice, all the redistribution that happens in these so-called socialist countries ultimately goes from the working class to the super.
Okay.
So did Pierre just confess that he's a socialist?
Well,
because isn't that his entire platform, is to take from us and to give some tax break to the ultra? Did he just call Trump a socialist? His like multi-trillion-dollar tax cut for the.
Well, he's talking about how it doesn't work in the socialist countries. Scandinavia would like a word, Skippy. Jesus. This fucking guy.
But socialism is taking from the people and giving to the businesses.
According to him, he says that's how he says it works. I'm like, not in theory, in practice, that's how it works. No. You mean so dental care, pharmacare, $10 a day daycare, the school lunch programs, that's giving to the wealthy? I don't know.
But
how
it's
that
socialism
works.
because it's given to the dentists, and the dentists have private practices, which are businesses.
The amount of mental gymnastics you have to do with these two to make sense out of anything they say, I don't have the time for it. And speaking of time, I gotta get the dog out. She's going a little squirrely.
My God, my brain hurts now. Why did you do that to me?
Well, I only gave you 2 minutes of stuff, man.
Oh my God, these two, and notice that the like this. Oh yes, absolutely, yes. They're all just like comforting each other in that.
Well, I mean,
and how wrong they are.
There's another clip that I'm not going to show you, but he says this individual, Paris Marx, at Paris Marx, says throughout the interview, you can see how Poilievre has deceptive but effective stories and cherry-pick stats that serve as agenda. He'll fabricate a narrative that government spending is what's driving up home prices to distract from developer and speculator profiteering.
Exactly. And he's going to tell you that the carbon tax is destroying your life so that you do not focus on how much the insurance company's profits have gone up as your premiums.
Yeah.
It's like it was funny because Alex was my Beaver Sweet was asking me for some information yesterday, and he said, like, how much do we pay for house insurance in 2022? And I'm looking at it. It says, okay, that's like a $1,239 or something like that. How much do we pay this year? $1,557.
$300 increase
over 2 years.
Why?
Nothing.
You didn't
no
have
claims, no floods, no nothing, nothing.
Yeah.
Just the overall. I guess now $300 off 1,230. So let's just say 1,200 is how much? That's 1/4.
Yeah.
My house insurance went up 25%. The carbon price did not raise the price of everything 25% over the last 2 years. No. But the insurance companies like to fund conservatives. So he doesn't talk about that. He says that the carbon tax is the thing that's making it such. Like, well, I don't know about you, but I think any of us that at least owns a home, for us, how much our insurance has gone up over the last 2 years has probably done more to affect how much food we could put on the table than any carbon regulatory fee.
Yes.
Everything. If he's telling you to look one way and blaming Trudeau or the left for it, find out who's doing it, excuse my language, but if he's telling you you're taking it up the butt from liberals, you might want to look at who's feeding your face. That's all I will say.
Mm-hmm.
Because from the right, because this is everything is freaking misdirection. He had this other thing. Scott Moe still had it yesterday. Put out a tweet saying, "Oh, today is the day that the federal government announced how much it's giving in equalization, and once again, British Columbia, Alberta, and Saskatchewan, we're funding the whole damn country." Once again, no, not once again.
No.
Not once again. No, you're not. It has never happened because, as we keep on explaining to you, let's say
during the Harper government rewrote the rules.
Well, not only that,
a tax base, and it gets distributed accordingly.
But here, like this thing, let's say Kit Saucy owes me $100, and she's trying to make arrangements to give it to me, but I'm going to be going on vacation. We're not going to be able to hook up. So it says, Mr. Grizzly, I'll give the $100 to you, and you give it to Mr. Beaver when you see him, because you're going to see him before I do. Okay. You give me the $100. Do you get to complain about what I spend that $100 on?
No, it's your money.
It's not yours.
No,
And does Saucy get to complain about what I spend that $100 on?
no, she owed it to you.
That's what's going on. Saskatchewan, the taxpayers of Saskatchewan pay their federal taxes. It goes to the government of Canada. The government of Canada decides, you know what? I'm not going to keep all these taxes for myself. I'm going to create a pool, and I'm going to distribute that pool back to the provinces. And I'm going to distribute to them based on their ability to make sure that they can provide an equal level of services to all citizens across the country. That's not Saskatchewan's money.
No. Well, and let's remember the population of Saskatchewan versus the population of Ontario. I need to bring up the stat for you. I'll bring it up.
So it's not Scott's Mo's money. It's not money that comes from the provincial treasury of Saskatchewan. It's money that residents of Saskatchewan owed the federal government through their taxes that the federal government has decided they are going to spend in other provinces. That's it.
Let's look at the population of Ontario. 16,213,758. Population of Saskatchewan, 1,251,000. If you add British Columbia, Alberta, and Saskatchewan together, they still do not equal the population base of Ontario. So how could they possibly fund the rest of the country?
I know.
They don't have enough tax base to do it.
I know.
I know that per capita, Alberta has the highest number of high-income earners in the country per capita, but they still have a much smaller base. It's a quarter of Ontario's. They're just under 5 million, so closer to a third of Ontario's.
So you have a premier who is still telling the lie. He knows it's your lie. He knows it's a lie.
Mm-hmm.
It's been debunked millions of times.
Oh, yes.
But he is still telling the lie. That person is literally telling the citizens of Saskatchewan, I think you are stupid. And I am going to lie to your face. And to those who are gullible enough, who don't know it's a lie, he is preying on their ignorance. And to those in Saskatchewan who knows it is a lie, he is looking at you straight in the face and says, I'm lying to you. I know I'm lying to you. I know you know I'm lying to you. And I'm going to look at your face and I'm going to smile and I am going to lie to you anyway, because that's how much fucking little respect I have for you.
Yep. That's it. That's it. That's all. That's nothing more. Nothing more.
Stop voting for people who don't respect you.
Please. I beg of you. I mean,
what kind of person does that? Comes up to you, looks you right in the eye, smiles, shake your hand, and lies right to your face, even though you know that you're lying like this, and pretends like nothing's going on. Something's not right. Something's not right. In the soul and in the head. Right? Outright, just straight up lie.
Yeah.
Mr. Grizzly, do we have a show?
You do indeed, sir.
All right, kids and cubs, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. Now, if you would like to support our show, like, for example, making sure you don't miss an episode of our audio-only version of it, then you don't have to, because you can scan the QR code that Mr. Grizzly's going to make appear. Thanks to the Ray Girl, the QR code exists, which brings you to our pod page, podpage.com/the-true-north-eager-beaver, lowercase letters with a hyphen between each one of those words. And if you go there and click subscribe, when we have something fresh off the bandwidth, it comes directly to you. Now, if you'd like to support us in other ways, you need to make like Kit Lane and surf yourself on down to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page, where right now, well, I don't know if there is that many people watching this, but right now I'm seeing on the counter, right now we've got 1,649 people joining us live, which I think might be the highest number we've ever.
No.
No, not live. Okay,
No,
the highest one I've ever noticed. But
well, and these are people watching on various feeds, right?
yes, but thank you so much, everyone who's watching. Good morning to everyone.
If you could join us on our YouTube channel, we'd really appreciate it. That would help us out tremendously.
Absolutely, yes, because when you view us there, we happen to get remunerated for that.
Correct.
I wanted to use a fancy word, and I kind of tripped out of the blocks. But hey, please come on down to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated page, where you can join the best damn fam in all podcasting in the chat, and have some fun, hang out. There's some good people over here. So come on over to our page, click like, share, and subscribe while you're there. That helps us with the algorithm. Thank you so very much. Now, if you would like to help us in other ways, then how about a little contribution to the emergency hydration fund here at the Beaver Lodge? And you can find that at our coffee page. And thank you so much, by the way, to, I believe it is Kit Wendy, if I'm not mistaken, who has decided to be our first contributor. No, sorry, not Kit Wendy, Miss Shadika, who is our first contributor of the new year, sending us a little note here. Although it's a well-known fact that beavers and bears do not congregate in the wild, you two are proof that a little bit of love and appreciation go a long way. Thank you for being a family for so many of us. And a heart sent. So thank you, Miss, and thank you for all the wonderful things that your family does for us as well. But yes, first donation of the New Year via our coffee page. And as I mentioned, you don't have to go to our coffee page to make a donation. There are other features there. We've discovered that we can have interactive features like polls. And if we wanted to write some content, editorial written content, that we could put it there too. So I'm going to explore this year, trying to develop it a little bit more as a sort of de facto web page for us. So if you want to keep on top of all news Eager Beaver and other things that we are doing, like for example, I think Mademoiselle Fox has a pre-recorded show coming on tonight, so we might be able to put the link on that, so you can find everything True North Eager Beaver, not just our show, but everything True North Eager Beaver Media there on our coffee page. So we'll try to develop that more this year. So please surf on down there. But if you're able to leave us a little something, that would be fantastic too. Now, if you're not able to leave us a little something financially, don't worry, because the gift of your participation and attention are the gifts that matter the most to us, and you are very, very generous with it. So please, we want to hear from you. Write to us, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com, or you can find us on our BlueSky Beaver Lodge at trueeager, also on Twitter, also at trueeager, our Facebook page, True North Eager Beaver, of course, our coffee page, coffee.fi.com/eagerbeaver, all the places that we are. So write to us. And even if you're listening on YouTube, there's even a comment section down below. So let us know what you think, because democracy is something that you do. Again, kids and cubs, just taking some easing time until the new week. Recharge your batteries and make sure that you're fresh for the battle that is to come. Very, very important. Right? From the Beaver Lodge, this is your Eager Beaver saying, it could be a tough world out there, so please be kind to and gentle with yourself. Mr. Grizzly, do you have some words of wisdom?
This applies more to me than anything else. Learn to forgive yourself. Learn to not listen to the voice in your head that tells you you're not worthwhile. Move ahead, breathe, and relax. It's all going to be okay in the end.
All right, Mr. Grizzly, I will come back with just a very, very brief update on the mixed double curling trials, because we're entering playoff day. But other than that, cue the cock. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. All right, Kits and Cubs, for those of you who have been watching, the mixed doubles trials are on to pick the team that will represent Canada at the World Championships. And should Team Canada at the World Championships qualify for the Olympics, then represent Canada there as well. And there's been some exceptionally good curling. Last year's defending champions are actually out, because the top three in each pool advanced, and they finished just fourth. So great competition. It seems that Jocelyn Peterman and Brent Gallant, who are stars in this discipline for Canada, haven't dropped a game all week to the trials so far. And the 6 teams that are on playing today in playoffs are Team Tran and Kleiter versus Team Jones and Lang. So again, Jennifer Jones, another decorated Olympian with her husband John Lang, who I also believe is an Olympic gold medalist in 4-person. Rachel Homan and Brendan Botcher versus the Cotters, and then Jocelyn Peterman and Brett Gallant versus Lisa Weigel and John Epping. So the four teams with the biggest name power going into it are 4 of the 6 that made it, and the defending champions, and the team, can't remember the partner, but that included Kirk Myers, who have been medalists before, also did not make the top 6 this time. So a couple of surprises. So matches, there'll be 3 matches today, and that will determine who are what are the semifinal matchups, and then with the big final to come. So if you've never watched doubles curling, extremely exciting, and do take a chance to watch it. I don't know if any of the finals or playoffs will be on TV, but if you go to the Curling Canada site on YouTube, you will be able to check out the curling action there. The featured match is always a little better because you actually get to see the full ice, whereas the cameras on the other sheets have a camera angle that shows you the rock going down, and then after passing the midway on another sheet, so it's a little more difficult to follow. But on the main ice sheet, you'll definitely have some great matches to watch. So tune in to that. And Kit Linda M wanted just a little comment. I completely agree with you when you talk about Devin, and say that he should absolutely be the main host of the next Olympics, and that he is the snappiest sportscaster ever in terms of dress.
I think we're losing your feed there, sir. Your camera's starting to glitch out on us. So I'm going to wind us up.
Yes.
And we'll see you later.
Yes, you have to finish without me.